Welcome to your validating in just a few minutes. But first, we're over 5,600 new cases in Nueces County, state, with 3 new deaths. Nothing new in Nueces. It's tests since this 7-day average. Nothing new. Hospitalizations, probably nothing new in the 7-day average. Vaccines have been listing up over 15 million. Nueces County has no data on its vaccinations. Worldwide, 533.9 million, 84.8 million. How about FBISD? How's it doing? Let's look back at May. There's nothing new for May. And transportation was blank on the 26th. This month, however, almost throughout June, there's been nothing. So which is good. Despite the fact that we're almost seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. But we couldn't. Until the time comes, we all gotta do one thing. Masks. Like I said before when I did my outdoor show. If you're not vaccinated, you're on the mandatory side. You're on the required side. It means you're required to wear the masks and stay socially distant. Until you get vaccinated once, you're still on the mandatory side. If you're vaccinated twice, you are on the optionary side. As for masks, again, the only reason why kids are getting the virus is because they're not wearing the mask correctly. It should be at the nose, not down here or down here. Social distance, 6 feet. 6 feet or more. The biggest one ever. Hand washing. It's very important to wash your hands to kill the spread of germs. Hot water, soap, 110 degrees. 20 seconds in the hot water. At restaurants, you have to wash your hands within an hour to stop the germs. If you're quarantined, you need to stay where you are, meaning you need to be at your house. Do not leave your quarantine area unless you have to take out the trash or go check the mail. Also, if you COVID, stay quarantined. If you get COVID, stay for 5 days. After the 5th day, go get tested again. If you're negative, you're good. And if not, another 5 days. And if you lost your sense of smell and your sense of taste and your taste, you will not get it back until a month. Running transportation. If you're mandatory, if you're not vaccinated, you're required to wear that mask. Stay socially distant. If you're optionary, then you can just wear whatever you want, but take extra precautions. Bring hand sanitizer with you at all times, disinfectant wipes. If you're under 2, no masks, and if you have a medical condition, you are exempt. Just let them know. I want to focus right now on summer school. The whole reason that is basically because, well, let me tell you something. You know how many times I ever went to summer school? 2 times. 2009, 2015. One, I think I probably failed math and English. Or just math, I'm not sure. When I went to summer school, I did the homework. It's because I failed my test. What I've learned is if you don't pass your test, you got to go to summer school to make up and study. If you don't pass the test, you got to repeat the same grade. 6th grade, I was doing okay. 7th grade, okay. Passed my classes. 8th grade, perfect. Freshman, perfect. Sophomore year, perfect. Junior year, failed my U.S. history test. I went to summer school during that year, took the U.S. history test, I passed, moved on to my senior year, graduated. And like people say, if you don't make up the test, you don't get to pass on to the next grade. But the whole reason why kids start summer school is basically because failing grades, not passing their tests, truant, etc. So that raises the red flag here, because if you don't pass your grades, you get all F's, you're flunking out of your classes. So what can parents do to make sure that kids keep up their grades? Well, when we come back, I'll tell you. So why do kids go to summer school? Before the break, we told you the reason why. It's basically because failing grades, not passing their tests, not passing their classes, laziness, being a distraction, and just not doing the assignments, not doing the assigned work. Because all the kids would rather do, stay home, sleep, play video games, help out their parents with the bills, or go hang out with their friends. Which category do I fall in? 0. Why? Because I was never truant. I never went to court. I never went to the office for parent conferences. I just went to summer school 2 times. And I've learned to push myself. Study hard. Study, study, study. That's the key here, is to study. But 6 weeks into sending your kids to summer school from Milwaukee is, number 1, summer slide. 2 months away from school, and the term will affect many kids. Probably got short kids can read doing venturing over the summer, but what's better than a couple hours for it to get their minds fresh? The achievement gap. The Colorado Department of Education notes that low-income children suffer the most from summer slide as a hurdle for anyone who wants to close that achievement gap. A new perspective, new friends, it's fun, and it's free. The pros and cons of summer school. I mean, summer learning is like this. It's like when I went to summer school, first time all I did was just learn. There was a teacher there. And when junior year, I had to study for my test during that summertime. We just get on a computer and then study, study, study. When August came, I had to take the test. Then I left. But I never had a makeup test. You don't pass your makeup test, you have to repeat the grade. Or you don't graduate. If you don't graduate, you're going to be stuck going back to your senior year. In the case of that 6-year senior, all he did, he had over 100 absences out of 180. because he was working and thinking about school. He's like, well, the only reason I want to come back is because I want to have a good job in the future, a high school diploma. I've heard that answer a lot of times, and believe me, step it up. Because in Rhode Island, in that state, you have to sign a contract to where you won't get in trouble, going to school on time, pass your classes. You don't do those things, you're out the door. Period. No excuses. That's the reason why summer school happens. That's the reason why I went to summer school. It was Monday through Thursday. Monday was Monday through Thursday, and Fridays just kick back, go do whatever you want. I was in summer camp Latchkey during that time, from 2005 to 2010. Does anyone know that this is 7th grade? Because I know how it is. I went to school. I've had some failing grades. But it didn't go, but it wasn't that easy. I had to push myself harder. I had to push myself to try harder, to study, not get distracted, not have issues. I had to push myself. Hear me now. When the next school year comes, kids, and when you have to push yourself, parents, hear me. If your child gets bad grades, don't sorry about that. Don't do what this father did. So don't be doing what this father did. Forcing his son to destroy his Xbox over bad grades. Take a look.
Let's go.
It's not my fault that I didn't get him.
Let's go.
It's not my fault that I didn't get him though.
Let's go. You got 3 weeks, Jason. Let's go.
It's not my fault. My
Too
teacher
bad.
doesn't want to give it
Let's
me.
go.
It's not my fault.
Now. Let's go. Let's go. Next one. Let's go. Next one. Let's go.
No.
Excuse you? Pick up the fucking sledgehammer and smash it.
But it's not my fault.
Now.
It's not my fault.
Okay.
It's my teacher's fault.
Let's go. Let's go, Jason.
I can't.
Do it. Do it or I do it. Do it or I'm going to do it.
I can't.
Yeah, you can.
I can't.
Yep, you're going to do it right now.
I can't.
Let's go.
I can't do it.
You're going to do it right now, Jason. Let's go.
I can't do it.
I'm tired of waiting. Let's go, Jason. Pick up the fucking hammer and do it.
Don't even do what this dad did. On a future Give Me a Break, probably our back to school series, report cards and progress reports. What parents and you kids out there need to know. That's on our Give Me a Break back to school time, which is going to be in August. Or in July. There's more Give Me a Break when we come back. Especially the latest from Hobbs Elementary. Don't go away. We're still covering the education beat tonight, and CCISD is one of them. One of the schools I hate. Before we move on to the school budget, I'm going to tell you why I hate CCISD. Years ago, I was in Head Start for a program, and from what I can remember, I was on a bus, no permission slips. Then my mom was angry at me. That's why I didn't like CCISD, because of the permission slips. So enrollment was not improving because a lot of students didn't enroll because of the pandemic 2 years ago, and they lost over a lot of money. Take a look.
On the education beat tonight, Corpus Christi ISD has lost more than 4,500 students over the past 4 to 5 years for a variety of reasons, including the COVID-19 pandemic. That lower enrollment cost the school district around $30 million in state funding. Our Seth Kovar reports it could lead to some changes in the coming years.
On a windy day at the park, asked some parents about potential winds of change at Corpus Christi ISD. Decreased enrollments and the corresponding state funding have school leaders considering taking action. But previous action at this couple's son's school over the COVID-19 pandemic didn't sit well with them.
We don't get to see his classroom and where he does.
There's
his
no lunch
schoolwork.
days like there used to be with your kid.
Go spend lunch with your kids.
The pandemic's also a big reason why CCISD is in their current situation, one that's starting to get a lot of attention.
A budget workshop here at the CCISD Administration Building gave school board members the opportunity today to talk about lost students and the corresponding lost funding. They talked about ways to retain and maybe even gain students and ways to save money with less of it coming in from the state.
Superintendent Rowan Hernandez would like to set the district apart in the minds of local students in hopes of luring them to CCISD.
We're very fortunate that we're able, because of our size as a district, to offer many new programs that you might not find in smaller districts.
And when it comes to money saving, consolidating more schools is a possibility. That's happening right now with Meadowbrook, Montclair, and Woodlawn Elementaries. They're being combined into one school that's just now starting to get built. Another proposal, having one assistant principal oversee 2 schools that have low enrollments. Those parents aren't a fan of that one.
I wouldn't want that for my child. I just feel like that's taking away from the students.
I wouldn't want that for a principal.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stress on one person. 2 schools it's a lot of kids.
Right now, they're all just ideas. The school board hasn't approved any changes, and if they did, they wouldn't go into place until the 2023-2024 school year. We'll let you know what they decide.
We talked about what are some things that we can look at that would help save us dollars down the road.
Reporting in Corpus Christi, Seth Kovar, Chris 6 News.
And we'll let you know what happens in that 2023 school year. Give Me a Break continues in just a moment. You know, almost 2 weeks ago, we've been telling you about the Uvalde school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. Now there are new with why the police took the police so long, where Border Patrol to be involved, why they shot the suspect. We've heard from a lot of people. Now we're going to hear from a Uvalde teacher who survived. He's telling his story tonight. Take a look.
First time we hear from a teacher in one of those 2 classrooms in that Uvalde elementary school, the teacher who survived the horror, telling our Amy Robach the moment he saw the gunman, how he told the children in his classroom to get under their desks, to pretend they were asleep, and the child he heard pleading with the police that they could hear in the hallway to help them. Mr. Reyes was the teacher in room 111. They were watching a movie when the shooting broke out. The children asking him, "What is that they hear?" Law enforcement gathering outside, some in the hallways, that child asking police to help them. And of course, we know of at least 2 children from those 2 rooms calling 911, telling dispatchers to send help. There were 11 students in his classroom alone. None of them survived. And today, 9-year-old Ellie Garcia was laid to rest. She would have just turned 10. This account tonight from the teacher who survived is harrowing, it is difficult, and once again, it is a portrait of what those children were going through as they called for help. Tonight here, the Amy Robach interview and our Matt Gutman leading us off from Texas.
Guy with a rifle.
Tonight, for the first time, we're hearing chilling details from a teacher who was wounded but survived the carnage in room 111, one of those 2 adjacent classrooms at Robb Elementary. Arnulfo Reyes was watching a movie with his 11 students when the shots rang out, bullets hitting the building. He spoke with our Amy Robach.
The kids started asking out loud, Mr. Reyes, what is going on? And I said, I don't know what's going on, but let's go ahead and get under the table. Get under the table and act like you're asleep. As they were doing that, and I was gathering them under the table and told them to act like they were going to sleep, is about the time when I turned around and saw him standing there.
Almost immediately, the gunman opening fire. 2 bullets hit Reyes, one through his arm and lung, another bullet in his back. He couldn't move. The shooter then turning that long gun on the students. They hear officers outside the classroom. Reyes says he heard a child in the next classroom pleading for police to help. By then, he thinks officers had retreated down the hallway.
One of the students from the next door classroom was saying, "Officer, we're in here. We're in here." But they had already left. And then he got up from behind my desk, and he walked over there, and he shot over there again.
The gunman going back into room 112, firing more shots. The teacher says he then heard officers again, telling the gunman through the door that they want him to come out, to talk, that they don't want to hurt anybody. A minute later, silence, until Border Patrol finally breached the door. While that horror was unfolding, parents outside begging for police to save the children.
You know that there are kids, right? They're little kids. They don't know how to defend themselves.
And at least 2 students from those connected classrooms were calling 911.
Is there anybody inside of the building? Child is advising he is in the room full of victims. Full of victims at this moment. No, 8 to 9 children.
When it was over, 11 of Reyes' students were dead. And today, another victim laid to rest, 9-year-old Eliana Ellie Garcia.
She was very happy and very outgoing. Loved to dance and sing and play sports. She was big into family, enjoyed being with the family.
The funerals continue tonight, and Matt joined us now, reporting from the scene again for us this evening. And Matt, this interview, the teacher talking with Amy, so powerful. Obviously hearing about that child who was pleading with police that they could hear on the other side of the wall to help them. We also heard from this teacher, Mr. Reyes, something we reported before here, that police at one point tried to talk to the shooter.
Another survivor, David, just 10 years old, told us that she heard law enforcement come down the hallway, maybe up to the door, and ask the shooter to come out to put down his weapon, but that he refused. And that teacher telling us also that he had to play dead for 77 minutes. There were long periods of silence, ultimately punctuated by law enforcement bursting into that classroom and shooting dead that gunman. David.
All right, Matt Gutman leading us off here tonight. Matt, thank you. And of course, tomorrow morning on Good Morning America, much more from that teacher, Arnulfo Reyes. His message to the police officers outside that classroom door and to the parents of his students. Amy's full interview on GMA. It's part of our reporting all day long tomorrow across all of our broadcasts and platforms. A closer look at guns in America. And tomorrow night here, our report on World News Tonight on AR-15 style weapons and how many states can you get them at just the age of 18, as authorities say that Texas shooter did the day after he turned 18 buying his weapon. And the debate, of course, why not raise the age from 18 to 21?
And that's also going to be part of our special series of this show we're calling Guns in America. A Day in the Life for kids. I mean, we once did this. I mean, we got Columbine, we got Littleton, Colorado, we have Sandy Hook Elementary, worst mass shootings. We got Virginia Tech also. I mean, how could these people, it's the guns. Where did the killer get them? But how easy is it to get a gun? John Stossel will tell us when we return. If you've seen one of John Stossel's reports, he talked about arming teachers, a federal program. I mean, this comes almost 2 weeks after the mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas. But how easy can you get a gun permit in New York City? Here's John Stossel.
I found this flaw. There's a loophole.
What if you want to carry one of these for self-protection? I thought the Supreme Court said you could.
The majority concluded that the right to own a gun belongs to each law-abiding American.
But what does that mean to me in my town?
In New York City, politicians say
majority of the people want sensible gun restrictions.
Sensible restrictions? What does that mean?
Photocopies not accepted.
I tried to get a gun license. They make it very hard. First, you must fill out this 17-page form. The form says I must promise I know the definition of other weapons like
switchblade knife, gravity knife, pylon ballistic knife, metal knuckle knife, a kung fu star. I don't want a kung fu star. I just want a gun for safety.
People sometimes threaten me because they don't like what I say on TV.
I think that's a common sense. I think they have too much security now.
After this appearance, some said I should be shot in the face. So when I travel around town, I'd like to have the option of protecting myself.
Studies show Americans use guns every day to stop crime.
Guns often stop crime.
The robber got more than he bargained for.
Turns the tables on a knife-wielding intruder.
Today, laws in every state allow adults to carry a concealed gun. Many fear this would lead to a surge in gun crime, but the opposite happened.
Violence appears to be dropping.
And yet some towns like Chicago, Washington, D.C., New York City make it nearly impossible for people legally to carry a gun.
This is 50 pages. Who understands this?
It took hours and hours to fill out the forms. We had to call the police department 6 times to clarify what questions meant. Finally, it was done.
I have to get this notarized?
You go ahead and sign here, and I will fill in the rest.
Then you have to go in person to police headquarters. Here, they fingerprinted me, asked me to list reasons why I should be allowed to have a gun, and then they charged me a $430 application fee. They said they'd get back to me. At least they were polite. Others tell a different story.
They're rude right from the get-go.
Robert Martinez served in Iraq and Afghanistan.
I have 10 years of military experience.
I think a military vet could keep a handgun in his home for protection, but
it's not so easy.
Why do you want a gun permit?
Because I want to be able to protect my family.
Martinez lives in a New York City housing project.
A couple of months ago, a man was beaten to death out in front of my building.
All of a sudden, you hear shots go off, and it's like boom, boom, boom.
So he thought he'd just get a gun license, but that turned out to be an ordeal.
They'll have you there at 9 o'clock when they open up at 10, and they'll have you sitting there until almost 3 in the afternoon.
They serviced me within 90 minutes.
Is John Stossel coming here to get a license? It's not really going to be
so
that
for
big.
You, it was 9 in the morning till 2?
Yeah.
And did you get the permit?
No.
Their attitude is that people don't need guns. Where are the police?
The police can't get there. You have a better shot at hitting the lottery than getting a cop on your street exactly at the same time that you get into problems.
The process itself was set up to be an ordeal.
Glenn Herman runs this website, which advises people on navigating the regulations.
If you're this expert, I would think it would be easy for you to get people guns.
It's still an ordeal. It's being used as a weapon to deter people from following through the process, which can take as long as a year.
For me, it took 8.5 months. First, they told me I had to return to police headquarters for another in-person interview. This time, they demanded that I prove an accusation against me had been dropped. They said this headline was not enough. I was supposed to produce the original court documents. They also told me I had to document threats against me. Fortunately, I could show them things like this. 52 days later, they sent me a letter rejecting my application for a carry permit. They said I could get a license to keep a gun in my apartment, But I feel safe in my apartment. I want a permit to carry where I might feel threatened. But I was told, you failed to demonstrate a special need. The license advisor told me I'd applied for the permit the wrong way.
Friends of the ruling class, that's who gets it. Everyone else, you're out of luck.
Donald Trump got a permit to carry a gun. So did Howard Stern and Robert De Niro.
It should be done through the cronyism way. Maybe you've done work for someone who knows a senator. That's the approach you make. They will get you in front of a judge, and within 2 to 3 days, you will have your permit.
These individuals can afford to pay for security. My family can't. There's no way in hell I'm going to let this slide.
We're out of time here. Tomorrow morning, New York, if you own a gun in New York City, if you have a gun license and plan to bring it to New York City, you could get to spend a day in jail. Here's a preview.
Have a gun license? Plan to bring your gun to my hometown next time you fly in?
Pack all unloaded firearm and firearm parts in a locked, hard-sided container.
If you call the TSA, they will tell you, put the gun in a locked container and
notify the airline during the ticket counter check-in process.
But even if you do this properly, New York authorities will still wreck your life.
Don't miss it. We're also going to talk to you about the media hype questionable gun control study and the right to print arms. We're also going to look at Texas, the laws. We're also going to look at the laws in Texas, California. That's going to be on Wednesday. As well as guns can stop attacks. Then on Thursday, John Stiles is going to link gun control to higher crime rates. And we're also going to look at the gun violence myth. That's on Thursday. We're also going to look at the myth that says gun control reduces crime. All this week on this broadcast, guns in America. A day in the life. And also we're going to look at kids and guns. Should kids have guns? We'll answer that question for you during this week's program. That's all for this edition of Give Me a Break Monday. We'll see you again tomorrow morning for Give Me a Break Tuesday. For all of us here at YouTube and Give Me a Break, good night.